Hey, this is John from Alloy 211. Today's video is on this K98K Mauser made at Mauser Wehrmacht in Bergiswalde in 1936. It's an S243 code, and although the K98K rifle itself is an interesting rifle that I could do a video on, this video is really more about how this rifle came into the country and the company that brought it in. Now, this rifle was given to me a few years ago as a Christmas present, so I have no monetary stake in this rifle. Honestly, I'm just happy to have a K98K that shoots really nicely. But after I got the rifle, I decided I wanted to look into Mitchell's Mausers a little bit more and just more about the rifles themselves. And what I found when I went into a lot of online K98K forums and just other things speaking about the Mitchell's Mausers, there's a lot of dislike among the Mauser collector community for these particular rifles, and a lot of salacious rumors possibly around them, a lot of claims of false advertising, just a lot of different things are said about Mitchell's Mausers in general, and none of them are particularly what I would call favorable. But overall, my experience with this rifle has been a good one. It is a good shooting rifle. It looks nice. Now, granted, there are some issues with that, but still, it looks nice, and it functions well, and it's accurate, and those are really important. Right off the bat, you may notice something about it that isn't correct. If it is a 1936 K98K, the bolt shouldn't be shiny like this. It should be blued and dark. It should not be polished. And also, right off the bat, you may notice this stock looks really nice and smooth, and it is. It is very nice and smooth, as if it had been sanded. In fact, I'm sure it has been sanded, as it's missing markings down on the butt, and then it does have a marking here on the butt, which is the serial number, which that shouldn't really be there. Now, most of the major components on this rifle seem to have matching serial numbers. That is another rumor that has been put out that I've seen about force match numbers. I'm not really going to get into that or speak on that too much, and I'll get into that a little bit as to why later on in the video. But, you know, I'm not going to address that. And one of the things I wanted to do before I made this video was actually speak to someone at Mitchell's Mausers to find out what they had to say about a couple of these questions, like the polished bolt, the sanded stock, and a particular marking that's over here on the left side of the receiver ring. And generally, this rifle is correct, other than, say, the polished bolt. The front barrel band is actually a little bit later one, I believe. The muzzle, the stock cap here is definitely a later one than what should be on a 36. This front sight hood I put on here, this wouldn't have a front sight hood. As a 1936, it'd have like this spring muzzle device. But since this is a Mitchell's Mauser, and there are a couple other inconsistencies, I thought, what the hell, I like the front sight hood, so I'll put it on there. Kind of the same thing with my VZ24 bayonet. Although it is not correct, it does fit, and why not, if it works. But, and one of the other things I did notice about this polished bolt, if you open it up, take it out, and you look closely here, and I don't know how well you're really going to be able to see this. Well, you can see it actually pretty well there. Down in the extractor groove, that is still blued. That has not been polished. And I took and I tried to clean it out to make sure it wasn't dirt or something of that nature, and it's not. It's blued. So at one point, this bolt was blued. And at one point, someone polished it out. At what point that happened, we don't know. Anyway. Oh, and the other mark I wanted to bring up, which I probably shouldn't have put the bayonet on here because it does make it a tad unwieldy. The other mark I wanted to bring up was this asterisk, if we can get it to focus, right here on the left side of the receiver. And I'll kind of give a better view of the markings here in a bit when I zoom the camera in. Also, while we're here, here are the importation marks. As you can see, MHC. So, I mean, this was imported by Mitchell's Mausers. It also came with, while I'm talking about that, this nice little oiler bottle, pull-through chain, a sling that I don't have over here, ammunition pouch with stripper clips. It didn't come with the ammunition. I supplied the ammunition. Get that back on there. There you go. Which, I mean, that's incredibly good shape considering how old it is. Anyway, I got in contact with Mitchell's Mausers about some of the indiscrepancies, such as the asterisk on the receiver ring, and their response to me, which they were, I have to say, they were very responsive and very friendly and more than willing to answer any questions that I asked. So I really found that, you know, no matter what people may say, when a company is responsive like that, that's a sign that at least they want to engage with their customers, and that's important. You know, like I said, I really think some of the more salacious things that are said about these rifles are, I don't really necessarily believe them, and I'll get into it in a bit. Anyway, to address the asterisk on the left side of the receiver, they responded to me, over the years we have observed that a small number of K98K rifles had the asterisk, but we have never been able to correlate it to any manufacturer, group of manufacturers, or to any production years, or to any one of our suppliers. We have never seen any mention of it in Wehrmacht production records. It would be reasonable to assume that it happened after production. Beyond that, no definitive information other than speculation. So basically they're saying, you know, when it left the factory in 1936, it did not have that asterisk. At some point past that point, it received the asterisk. And further along, I asked, and go to my phone for the email because I didn't really want to write it all down. Further along, I asked about the polished bolt and the sanded stock. To which he responded, unlike the Serbian Mausers, all the German K98Ks were issued at least once and all went to war where they were used and abused. Nobody can supply a K98K that still looks like it just came out of the factory. After the war, the victors collected all the rifles and dealt with them in various ways. Every stash of K98Ks we've ever inspected have been reworked in some way to some extent. We delivered the best we found to import. We too have wondered why so many of the bolts were white. No soldiers would want to carry a white bolt into combat. Reviewing the photos in Richard D. Law's definitive work on K98Ks, backbone of the Wehrmacht, the German K98K rifle, 1934 to 1945, one can see that the majority of bolts were originally blued. After the war, when these rifles were reworked by various victors, the bolt bluing was not always maintained. When we inspected rifles over there for import, we selected for beauty and function. As it turned out, the better rifles with better barrels and better appearance tended to have white bolts. We did import many with blue bolts and delivered them to customers on request. Perhaps one of the reasons bolts were kept in the white is because the blue bolts quickly acquires very visible white wear marks where the extractor rubs on the turning bolt. A white bolt continues to look new much longer than a blue one. All stocks we inspected have shown signs of abuse and at least minor modification, indication of cleanup. We rejected more rifles due to ugly stocks than we accepted for import. Sometimes the soldiers may have glassed his marred stock, which as veterans described to us as a piece of glass, maybe a shaving mirror, was used to scrape the surface, or it may have been a full surface refinish at a rebuild facility. The stocks were not varnished, but rather the bare wood was wiped with ordinary gun oil, which made minor cleanups very easy. This refinishing was very frustrating to us because from time to time we would find valuable Waffenmont marks and death's head marks had been almost completely polished out of the wood. As you know, no K98Ks have been available for import for about 8 years now. Our inventory is long gone, and the values of these rifles have doubled and tripled. We really enjoy delivering value to our customers. Now, that is a kind of a roundabout way of saying, and this is what I theorized about these rifles, honestly, to begin with. Because of the large quantity of these rifles that came onto the market at the time they came onto the market, I really feel that there's a good chance that these rifles were in Soviet satellite country inventories, probably had been rebuilt or refinished at some point after World War II, put into surplus, and then when the Iron Curtain fell, and they have no need to maintain these large inventories of rifles, especially rifles that weren't necessarily in a caliber that they were going to use. At least in a bolt action, they may have used it in their machine gun still. Well, why not just surplus those all out? And that would make sense for a lot of the things we see here. You know, the polished bolt, it really looks like this has been possibly reblued, but then parts that may possibly have been force matched in serial numbers that Mitchell's Mausers may not have had anything to do with, because if you're going to arsenal rework the firearm, you may just go ahead and overstamp or restamp. Not to say that it may not have happened at some other point, because it could have. It's all speculation, really. We'll go ahead and zoom in on the markings here so we can get a good look at them. We can focus. There we go. You know, your S243, 1936, the asterisk there. Now this is going to be upside down. Again, the mistake of the bayonet. If you watch some of my other videos where I talk about bayonets, I talk about how dangerous it is to have a bayonet on your rifle. Then your other ordinary K98K marks, serial number, Waffen months. And you have serial numbers here. I mean, some of this does seem a little odd, and maybe the fonts aren't totally correct, but I can't say that Mitchell's Mausers did that, because honestly there was a large period of time in between the time that they acquired these rifles and the time that they were made in the factory originally. Now, I'll get this underneath the camera if I can get it to focus. Maybe. It's trying. Let me move that. Okay, well, you can kind of see it there. The front part of the upper handguard here is actually burned from this barrel. It looks like it's charred. I don't want to say burned, charred from the barrel getting hot. And you can obviously see a lot of wear here. You know, I ain't gonna go ahead and pull the bayonet off. And again, if I can get it to focus, zoom out a little bit. Maybe. Or not. Zoom out a little more. There we go. Now maybe you still can't really tell. There we go. As you can see on the end of the muzzle there, it's definitely got dents. These do not affect the way the rifle fires or its accuracy in any way, but you can definitely tell this rifle was used, if not abused, at some point. But yet the stock is very smooth, so yeah, obviously it's been sanded. And overall, do I think that Mitchell's Mausers misrepresented their products in their advertisements? And for years I would see advertisements for these in, I believe, American Rifleman, some other gun publications. And I do remember them, you know, really implying that these were quality rifles and that, you know, the majority of parts numbers matched, the major parts and this and that. But at no point do I remember them trying to say that they were like a GI bringback or a just post-war surplus gun. You know, they seem to be describing them pretty accurately, possibly embellishing some, and I can really only speak for this grade. This is the grade that I think they called the shooting collector grade or something like that. I think it was around $700–800. Like I said, I don't know for sure it was as it was a gift, but you know, it's a great shooting rifle. It's a nice looking rifle, honestly, other than this bolt. I really don't like the silver bolt, and I may blue that, I don't know. That may be a step too far for me, and trying to make it more original, or, you know, just kind of Frankensteining it a little bit, which maybe it doesn't matter because it's already kind of a Frankenstein. You know, the back sight though, the back sight is correct. That's very nice. It is the correct back sight. Not a matching serial number. Let's see if we can zoom in on that. Yeah, not really too well. But that serial number doesn't match. But that's not a major component either. So, but it is the correct style of sight. I mean, it's got the markings on the back as well. So overall, do I think that Mitchell's Mausers was, you know, using dishonest advertising? No. Do I think that they embellished their advertising a little bit? Probably. but every company does. And from what they were charging for the rifles, yeah, maybe it was on the upper end of what a shooting grade K98K would be, but it's also in wonderful shape and it has been taken care of. And if I could get the barrel, I tried earlier when I was setting up for the video to be able to show you the rifling in this barrel. It is crisp. It looks brand new. So overall, it's a great shooting rifle with great rifling, a tight action. You know, for what it is and what it originally cost, I can't say really anything bad about it. Granted, it was a gift to me, so maybe that's part of why my opinion is that. You know, if you're looking for, you know, if you see these come up used for sale and you're looking for, you know, a collector K98K battlefield pickup or just post-war surplus gun, these probably aren't what you're looking for. But if you're looking for a German Wehrmacht K98K that you can take out and shoot and enjoy, from my experience with Mitchell's Mausers, I would say buy it if it's a reasonable price. And also because, you know, you'll still have people today that may try to portray a rifle like this as something that it's not and try to sell it for a higher price. And that's something to be aware of. And you can't blame the original importer for people doing that now. I mean, maybe you could. Maybe you at least could say that they mischaracterized the rifles and that's why this person is doing this. But that's a bit of a stretch. Anyway, my overall opinion, Mitchell's Mausers imported a lot of rifles that became available after the fall of the Iron Curtain and sold them at maybe somewhat higher prices, but reasonable. And to find rifles like this, honestly, in the market, you'd really have to look. Whereas they, you know, you had an advertisement. All you had to do is contact the company and you could have a piece of Wehrmacht rifle history. Whether it's a somewhat altered, doctored piece, well, probably because it's been Arsenal reworked. But still a good rifle and a rifle I enjoy shooting. So hopefully you found this informative. If you liked the video, go ahead and hit the like button. If you watched some of my other videos and you like those too, I'd really appreciate if you subscribed. So thanks and have a good day.